Hello there, this is Rom Wills coming back at you with yet another podcast. Some things can only be experienced. Now, you know what? I've talked about the sexual shadow world and, a whole bunch of stuff. And, I always talk about, select and non-select men. Now, here's an issue. I can explain a lot. And I can say, yeah, this happens, this happens, this happens. But some things can only be experienced. As I've said in previous podcasts and videos, you got to get out there. Like, I can tell you what goes on, and I can tell you some maybe general signs that, a woman wants to dip into the shadow world with you. And, I could tell you, like, yeah, this is what it means to have women chase you. But it's abstract to you if you haven't experienced it. Like, for example, you got guys out here. It's not a lot of guys. Women routinely approach them. Routinely. But you can't explain it. You can say that, but the vast, overwhelming majority of men will never experience that, even once in their lives. Even once. And now you could explain it to them. You could say, oh, yeah, you're just sitting there chilling and, the woman just come over. And, the guy hearing it never explained, well, what did you do? What did you do? Did you say anything? Did you stand a certain way? And the guy, well, if they even conscious of what they're doing, because a lot of times guys like that aren't conscious of what they're doing, they say, no, I was just standing there. And usually they just were. But it's still an abstract concept to somebody who's never experienced that. What would they know? They grew up chasing women all over the place, approaching women all over the place. They don't have any idea about a woman approaching them or how they all approach, which is, generally just real quick, two general ways. Some are very direct, but that's very rare. Some just they'll put themselves in your path. Oh, a third way is also they'll like put themselves in the path, but they'll talk about something obscure, like if they might comment, like if you're in a grocery store and you're near the mangoes or something, she might comment like very loudly or to you about the mangoes. And usually in that case, very few women actually make small talk like that. Like women actually, if they speaking to you, they got some type of agenda. Very few women just talk just to be talking, like, oh, okay, good. It happens, but still, usually something, if they have some type of interest, even if it don't seem like it, because they just put themselves in a position to talk to you, but they still approaching you, or they still putting themselves in your path, something. But it's hard to explain that for a guy who's never experienced that. It's hard to experience it. It's like, I remember somebody said something about my book, Nice Guys and Players, because they read it, because, I'm more of the school of the women approaching you. They choosing you. And the guy said, you must not get women. And I was like, no, they just my experience of it. That's why sometimes I say some of the stuff I say ain't for everybody. That's why the guys who come closer to that, the women approaching them thing, get my book the most. But you can only experience that. Or, I talk about the shadow world. You got to experience that. That's not something that you deal with and then, you go on like social media and, brag about it to somebody. Because one of the big things is just being discreet. And that's one thing a lot of guys got to understand. A lot of guys got to understand. Wait, hold on a second. A lot of guys got to understand it. Remember, I did a video a week or so ago about the communication issues between select and non-select men. You're speaking a different language. That's why, like, even on this channel, I said I'm going more towards the select. Because they understand what I'm saying. It's not crazy. It's like, oh, that never happens. No, it never happens to you. So it's like, it's tough. It really is tough. But it's just like sex itself. There's a big difference between the man who has had sex with 100 women and the guy who's read about sex in 100 books. Now, some people, if they're more intellectually minded, they'll say, well, that person read all these books. Well, first of all, those books probably came from somebody actually having sex, and they describe their experiences. But, you know, just in sex, you can read all the books you want, and you're going to get something different. Like anybody who's dealt with more than 3 women, realize they don't all have sex the same way. Their vaginas ain't the same way. Different things trigger them or turn them on. And some of the stuff, you can't really read that in books. Yeah, somebody could write that down, say, oh, it's different things. But then when you actually experience it, and the reason why it's different, what happens in a book or what somebody write about in a book and what happens in your real life, because whoever wrote that book, their sexual experience, if they even base it on sexual experience, sometimes some people base it on some dubious studies, it's going to be different from you. Because if you get two men, a woman's going to interact with those two men. The same woman going to interact with them differently. With one man, she you know what, she might be that that starfish sex, just enough, and she'll just kind of let it in here and let them do their thing, and all that, let them do their business. So, and that'd be their experience, and the dude might write, yeah, women just lay there and everything, because that's their experience. But then the next man, the women get in there, shoot, he got him screaming. She throw him on the bed, be jumping up and down. She'll jump up in the air, spread her legs, paws come down perfectly or something. She'll be doing some vile stuff to his body. But then that'll be his experience. Because each person, you have to understand, every person is going to interact with something different. That's why I say with my stuff, I say, look, go out and figure out what works for you. I'm just giving you a perspective, because you can't even say that 2 different men are going to get the same type of women, because every man has a tribe. So, one man might be the type who get that athletic type of woman. The next man might be the type that get those big old women. So it's like, y'all can't even say y'all interacting, because if you get deep with them, because then you're dealing with different personalities, and there's some general personalities based on women's body build, how they're going to interact with a man, a general thing. But then it still come down to how they interact with you. Like certain types of women, I'll use myself as an example. Certain types of women don't deal with me well, and I'm good with that. I can look at their bodies and tell whether or not they're going to deal with me well. But then some other body types will. But any man's got to understand that. Like, sometimes I always get some guys like, well, show us how you do it. It was like, but when a woman's interacting with me, one of the main things women like about me are my eyes and my eyelashes. Now, and for you to do the exact same thing, your eye color need to be the particular shade of brown I got. Your eyelashes need to curl up like mine. And then everything else need to have the same scent I do, the same body build I have, for you to do the exact same thing. You got to go out there and figure out what works for you. You can say the exact same line to a woman. It's going to work for me because she turned on, but not work for you because she's not turned on. Those are very important things. That's why when I talk about this stuff, I say all these factors come into there. So in order for you to know, I'm just giving you a basic blueprint, a basic outline, but you got to fill in stuff that's particular to you. And the only way you can do that is to go out and experience it. Like people talk about like getting into the shadow world. Well, unfortunately, a woman has to invite you in. A woman has to invite you in. You can do whatever. You can advertise. It ain't going to happen. And even then, even to talk about it, I could talk about it till I'm blue in the face. You still have to experience it. So, anyway, I think y'all get what I'm saying. That's all I have for now. Peace and many blessings.